आप इधर लौट आए तो अभी जो आप 50 साल के बाद हम लोग मिल रहे हैं तो आपको क्या याद आता है? जैसे आपने मतलब वहाँ के दर्शन को आप अपने मन में आपको फील करना हो तो जैसे कि कोई बूढ़ू कोते बका ये करना या तो लाइक वन सेंटेंस हो चकता
Well, when I met all of you, I was so happy because after 50 years, it's the first time I'm actually meeting some more people. And I was so happy to meet all of you, and that's why I made an effort and we fixed to meet in the evening. And the first thing that came into my mind was, of course, Chile Kemina Booking.
Yes.
So that was, but I had forgotten most of the language.
Yes.
I'm sure it will come back if I start speaking with all of you all for some time. It will come back. But then what I also remembered, which was the whole song, which is actually sung during Mage. So in the Mage festival period, they sing this song.
Yes.
So I don't know if I'm right to sing it outside Mage, but as soon as I saw all of you in Ho, immediately the song came to my mind saying, Nam Meda Kui Ho Nenenga Me Mena, Nam Meda Kui Ho Ne Apu Me Mena, Bakadi Talla Natale Bada, Sapagem Leloa. And I remember the song because I used to sing the song to my children to put them to sleep. And then I also started singing it to my grandchildren. So this and some of the other whole songs have stayed with me. We sing it. Sorry, आप कुछ पूछेंगे कि मैं शुरू करूँ?
आप ही कर दीजिए.
अच्छा. Hello, my name is Stan Tekekara and I'm working with an organization called Accord, which we started in 1986, which is working with the Adivasis in the Gudulur Valley of the Nilgiris district. And
how come you Jharkhand?
So I started my work with Adivasis in 1974. So that's nearly 50 years ago when I was just 21 years old. And when I was at university and after university, I came to understand the Adivasi problem and the Adivasi issue. And I attended many work camps in what was then Bihar and now is Jharkhand. And we lived in villages.
That's
and
1972, sir.
70. If the work camps I attended were all in 1972
72.
and 71 and 72. That is when we became aware of the Adivasi question and the Adivasi issue and the injustice and exploitation of Adivasis. That's when I decided that I would like to spend my life working for this cause. Then for 2 years I was away, and in 74 I decided to come back to come to Bihar, now Jharkhand, to try and work with the Adivasis. And I thought I'll take a job in the school, in some school over there, tribal school, and through the school use that as a point of entry to enter the villages. But during that time, I heard that Father Stan Lutswami had come to Bangalore because I am from Bangalore. And he was, I heard somebody told me that he was the principal of a school near Chaibasa. And I didn't know where Chaibasa was or anything. So I went to meet him to ask him whether it's possible for me to get a job in that school. And when he realized my background and that I'm from Bangalore, he wanted to know why I was going to such a far off place for a job. And then I told him it's not mainly the job, it was just as a point of entry because I wanted to work in the villages. And then he immediately said that he was living in a Adivasi village and he was going away to Belgium for a year, and would I come and join him there. So that's how in 74, at the age of 21, I reached a small village called Baraburu, close to Sonua and Chakradapur, between Sakapur and Chaibasa. And I lived there for 4 years as a tribal. I took on the way of life. I learned the language. This was the whole tribe. I learned the language and I became completely a tribal, living as a tribal, doing all the things that the tribals do. I earning my income also as a tribal. I took a small piece of land on lease and I was cultivating it and growing rice. And I became very much part of the community. But when I arrived, I didn't know the language, but I found that there was a lot of singing and dancing. So I joined them in the singing and dancing, and I didn't know anything in the language. And in the dancing, they used to shout Segere, Sebere, Segere, Sebere. I didn't hear it properly, and I just heard Segere, so I kept shouting Segere, Segere, Segere. And then in the village, they said, this name suits you, because it's a very joyous sound, Segere, Segere. And so I was known as Segere. And that is how I lived there for 4 years. till 77, end of 77.
सर आपने जो वहाँ झारखंड में स्टार्टअप किया, अपने खुद को ये ब्रदर लाइन में थे या फादर लाइन में या कुछ और थे, ऐसा कुछ?
Yeah. No, I just went as an independent person.
Okay.
But Father Lutz, the Stan Swami, he was known then as Stan Lutz Swami. All of you would have heard of him. He died recently as a martyr for the Adivasi cause. It was with him, and then some other sisters also joined us, and some other lay people also. But it was not a religious thing at all. It was basically more a political action where we felt that we had to be, all of us who came from privileged backgrounds had to use our privilege to work for the poor.
तो ये बैंगलोर से झारखंड कैसे पहुँचे?
So it is like this through Father Swami. He said, to come. And of course, I had been to near Ranchi, Hazaribagh, those areas for camps, but not to Chakradharpur or Chaibas or any of these. This was a new experience for me. And so that's how I went up to Baraburu.
तो सर अभी आपने कहा कि बराबर से हमने स्टार्ट किया आदिवासियों को समझने के लिए, तो ऐसा कोई आपने 4 साल रहा वहाँ पे, तो ऐसा कोई इंटरेस्टिंग आपके जीवन को अभी याद करता है, आदिवासियों को याद करने के लिए जो आपके दिलों में है अभी तक?
No, there are many things. The main thing that I remember very much is the singing and the dancing and the diyang. Because we always used to gather and community. It was the most important thing that I remember was this was a very happy community. They are a very close community. Everybody helped each other. And though they had so much of difficulty, people were always happy. They were always laughing and singing and dancing. So this was an amazing experience for me to be part of a community like that. But we also saw many problems. The biggest problem we noticed was that there was no health care at all. And there was nothing I could do about it because I didn't have a health background. I'm just fresh out of college. But then I realized that many of the Adivasis could not see in the night. There was night blindness was almost universal. Nearly everybody had night blindness. And they used to wonder how I could see in the night. I'm walking in the night without any light. And that's when I realized that they all were suffering from night blindness. And then talking to some friends and everything, I found out that it was a deficiency in vitamin A and D. And so I just managed to arrange some A and D, again, depending on friends, because I didn't have any money or anything at that time. We started giving vitamin A and D, and everybody very quickly were able to come out of their night blindness. It was only because of a vitamin deficiency. And so I got a reputation as being somebody who can do jadoo, like a magician, a doctor, because suddenly everybody could see. And so like that, people used to come with a lot of health issues, health problems, thinking that I could do something about it, and I couldn't. And I had to, but there was an incident where I took a risk to try to save a person's life. And that led us to a hospital in Chakradharpur, and there was a very good doctor who taught me some basic things about healthcare, and gave me medicines every month so that we could take care of basic problems. And another very funny incident was one day somebody from a neighboring village, they came to me and said, there is someone who has accidentally consumed poison, and he is lying inside in the hut. So could I come and do something? And I didn't know what to do, but just because I was a scout also in school, I knew some basic first aid. So first thing was to move him out of the dark out into light so that he didn't become unconscious. And then we fed him with a lot of raw egg and some oil so that he would vomit. And then he completely vomited and all the poison came out and he survived. So that village, his family, gave me a small peacock as a present because I used to be fascinated coming from a city like Bangalore to see peacocks in the village flying around. It was quite exciting. So they gave me a small peacock as a pet. But my father in Bangalore always wanted a peacock. And so I brought that peacock from Bihar, from Chaibasa. The people made me a small cage. And then I brought that peacock in that cage to Bangalore. And it was there for very many years. It grew up into a big peacock with a beautiful tail. And it was there in Bangalore, which made many people very happy.
तो सर जैसे आपने कल कहा था कि हमने वहाँ हो कम्युनिटीज़ के बीच में बराबर में जहाँ रहा, तो वहाँ हमने ऐसा भी जीवन यापन किया कि अनुभव किया, हम उन गांव वालों के साथ में तेंदू पत्ता भी तोड़ने जाता था और इस खुशी में हमें वो अपने घर में भोजन ऐसा कुछ कराते थे, ऐसा कुछ
So,
इंटरेस्टिंग।
yeah, so my first introduction to the Adivasis, like I said, we had a lot of leadership camps because I was part of a student movement called ICUP. So we had many leadership camps and work camps. But there was one work camp which had been organized by one Father Crick near Ranchi, where all of us students, instead of going and building a road, helping to build a school or paint a school or things like that, we were all asked to live with a tribal, with an Adivasi family, and living with that family, and not for 1 week or 10 days, but for a full month, and go with the family to collect tendu leaves, tendu pata, because that was their main occupation in that 1 month, all of them, and that was a big source of income, cash income for them. So by working with the family, we were able to contribute significantly to the family income, and the family fed us and everything. And so, but each of us stayed individual, one person in each family, so we are not as a group. And so that was a big challenge, not knowing the language. At that time, I didn't even know any Hindi. And anyway, the people also didn't know any Hindi. So to live for 1 month without knowing the language and everything like that was a very, very moving experience. Actually, it was during that 1 month we got to know what was happening to the Adivasis and the kind of thing. And nobody was talking about it. Those days, no one knew about Adivasis. Adivasis were considered like not humans, somebody living in the jungle and everything like that. So it's not like today. Today, Adivasis are on the map of India. That time they were not. Nobody even knew. And even I didn't know there were Adivasis in Bangalore, around in South India. I thought all the Adivasis were in Bihar, in Jharkhand. So that's why I went there. Maybe if I had known, I might have started working with some Adivasis here. But I didn't know. That was the total lack of knowledge that people had about Adivasis. So that 1 month change in many ways became the foundation and made me determined to go and live and work with Adivasis. And I have been doing that ever since.
और एक बात सर आपने कही थी कल कि जब अकाल पड़ा था 1974 ऐसा कुछ, जो वो अपना पू में लेके बाजार बेचने जाते थे, और आपने उनको देखकर आपके मन में लगा कि ये तो दुख की बात है, क्यों ना हम यहीं पे उसको सीड्स बैंक बनाएं और हम इसको कुछ करें। तो ये आपका कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग था जस्ट।
So one of the things we realized, so part of being in Bihar, one part of it was just the excitement and the fun of living with the community, being part of a Adivasi community. But the other part is because of our background, our study and thing, we had a lot of left thinking. So analyzing the village, what is happening, we realized that the village, just before the harvest, is when all the rice would be over in the village, paddy would be over, and though they were growing a lot of paddy. So then when we started looking at that with the young people talking, I found that they all go to the local bazaar, the hut, and they take in little leaf cups, they will take little paddy, and they will take that paddy and exchange the paddy for oil, salt, some of these essentials. And this is the way every day, little bit paddy used to go from every household. A lot of paddy used to go from the village, and that used to be taken by the traders, the Marwari traders, the bhikkhus as they were known, would take all this paddy. And slowly by the end of the season, they will have no rice in the house, and then they will have to borrow from these people. They'll borrow the paddy back from the people they gave it to. And then they'll be in debt, and then when they cultivate, they'll have to, one small patch of land, that paddy will have to be returned to the money lenders, and so on. So we talked in the village, especially as I had a big group of young people. We were all friends because I was also young at that time. With the friends, and that time we must remember there were no NGOs, there was no funding, nothing. It was just, I was there living as one of the tribals. And so with a group of friends, we decided we should do something about it. So the first thing we did was convinced everybody in the village not to take their paddy. And I borrowed some money from some friends, some sisters, gave us 10,000 rupees. With that 10,000 rupees, we used to give cash for the paddy, and they should take the cash and buy things in the market, not to take the paddy. And that way we started collecting the paddy in the village. and we made our own bandis, which is with the straw rope. They make these big bandis, and so we had like a paddy or rice bank. And so when so there was enough paddy in the village, and not only enough in the village to meet all the household needs. The next year, when the crops failed, the rains failed and the crops failed, we have got very little paddy. We were one of the few villages where people didn't starve or didn't have to get into debt because we had grain stock. We had the stock of paddy. And fortunately, these people who loaned us the money, the sister says, no need to return it. You keep it and carry on. So there was always a grain bank in the village. That was one big change. But when we did this and people started taking cash to the market, there was a big resistance from the trading community, all the traders, especially the Marwadis. They would keep telling us, they started telling the people, why are you doing this, and things like that. So then we decided to be a little stronger. And so again, all of us young people discussing what is happening in the market, we found that the Adivasis, the women would take vegetables like brinjals or different things from the village, maua and all that. And when they reach the market, outside the market, there will be these young agents standing over there, agents of the Marwadis, who will just grab the basket from their hand, don't even look, just give a few rupees in their hand, and then give this basket to somebody else to take to the market, to the bazaar, to the hut and sell it. So we all decided we should do something about it and stop this practice. So a group of us young people, we organized with the girls. We told the girls, when they grab your basket, you start chilao, just start screaming and saying, "Oh, mujhe ye kar raha hai, wo kar raha hai," start screaming. And all of us were hiding nearby. As soon as the women started screaming, we would run and we would catch this agent and tell them, what are you doing? Where you are harassing our women, you are doing this to them and this thing, that thing, and threatening to beat them up and everything. And they would run away. We did that for 2 or 3 bazaars, and it was every Tuesday. It was a Tuesday bazaar. Every Tuesday we would have this. Slowly they gave up this, and the women themselves used to go, and they used to sell it in the market. So they got the full price. So this was one of the other. So there weren't any big interventions. They were all very, very small interventions, not with any plan like we have today. NGOs have made big plans, 5-year plan, 3-year plan. We had no plan. Every day we are seeing some problem, we try to solve the problem. So there are many, many stories like this. I can go on one full day about the many stories.
तो सर ये 4 साल के आपके उधर जीवन जो आपने बिताया, तो काफ़ी आपका एक्सपीरियंस रहा, और आपने भी काफ़ी एक्सपीरियंस जो उनके मन को प्रभावित आप करके फिर आप इधर लौट आए। तो अभी जो आप 50 साल के बाद हम लोग मिल रहे हैं, तो आपको क्या याद आता है? जैसे आपने मतलब वहाँ के दर्शन को आप अपने मन में आपको फील करना हो, तो जैसे कि कोई बूढ़ू कोते बकाई करना, या तो लाइक वन सेंटेंस हो
When I met all of you, I was so happy because after 50 years, it's the first time I'm actually meeting some more people. And I was so happy to meet all of you, and that's why I made an effort and we fixed to meet in the evening. And the first thing that came into my mind was, of course, Chile Kemina Buging. So that was what, but I had forgotten most of the language.
Yes.
I'm sure it will come back if I start speaking with all of you all for some time. It will come back. But then what I also remembered, which was the host song, which is actually sung during Mage. So in the Mage festival period, they sing this song. Yes. So I don't know if I'm right to sing it outside Mage, but as soon as I saw all of you in Ho, immediately the song came to my mind, saying, Namme kui ho ne nenga me menna, namme kui ho ne apu me menna, bakadi talla nattale bada, sapagem leloa. And I remember the song because I used to sing the song to my children to put them to sleep. Yes. And then I also started singing it to my grandchildren. So this and some of the other Ho songs have stayed with me. We sing it at Christmas. I sing another Ho song, and so the music has stayed, the laughter has stayed, and so a lot of these very, very happy memories of those 4 years. In spite of the problems, in spite of the difficulties, at the end of the day, it's very happy memories.
तो सर आपने काफ़ी अनुभव किया है और काफ़ी अनुभव दे गए हैं हमारे झारखंड वासी वो क्षेत्र में। तो तो अभी भी लगता है कि मैं खास उस क्षेत्र में भी बस जाऊं तो काफ़ी
ना अभी वो क्षेत्र में आप लोग सब है ना, but I'm happy to support all of you in any way
यस
because now at my age I can't start something new. I have been in Gudalur in the Nilgiris district since 84. In 86 we started a pod, and there too, but there was one difference. When we went to Gudalur, I was already married and we had a child and we are expecting a second child. So we decided we will not pretend to be Adivasis, because the fact is at the end of 4 years, I realized that as beautiful it was, I was not really an Adivasi. And but there I lived as Adivasi. I wouldn't speak English. If we went to see the BDO or we went to see the collector, I would always speak either in Ho or in Hindi, but not in English. So I wouldn't show that I came from an educated background. And many of the local people, especially government officials, also thought I was a Ho because I used to speak in the language. And they used to say, how come he is so tall? Yalla so shy, he looks different, he doesn't look like a Ho. Then they used to say, नहीं वो बहुत छोटा सा उम्र में ये फादर लोग के साथ वो दूसरा जगह चला गया पढ़ने के लिए, and वहाँ के दूसरा चावल खाया, and so he is looking very different. So everybody used to think I was a Ho, and I was very proud of it. I was very, very proud of being known as a Ho. But when we came to Gudalur, we decided we won't do that.
यस
Because my wife came from a city, and because we had children, if it was just two of us, she said we can continue that kind of a life. But as we came from a city, but then I had another experience between Bihar and starting in Gudalur. For 1 year I worked in Andhra with the and after the tidal wave and cyclone, which was worse than the tsunami. That hundreds of thousands of people died and a lot of destruction. There, when we went to see what we could do there, I found that the sub-collector of that district was the classmate of my classmate. And because of that, we met her. And because of that, a lot of doors were opened. She introduced me to the collector, to all the different tahsildar. So a lot of doors were opened and we were able to do a lot for the fishing community. So when we came to Gudalur, we decided that rather than pretend to be not tribals, we will accept our privilege and we will use our privilege to open doors for the people. So that, and today now with my gray hair and everything like, I can walk into any government office and I get some respect. Also, everybody knows us. We have been there for so many years. So we use that to open doors for the tribals, and then they can take over. So we don't live Adivasi life now. We live a life like our families, from the kind of life we came from. So there is that difference. But the value system and the vision stays the same. And when we started Accord, our vision was to support the Adivasis, enable them to be part of the dominant society, but on their own terms, with dignity and pride. They should be able to, because when we came there, most of the villages were not even on the revenue records. They were not in the census. Most of the people are not on the census records. And the Adivasis themselves kept to themselves. They didn't interact with many people. So one big difference between here and Bihar is that Bihar, it's a majority, the whole, for miles and miles you can go, they're only Adivasi villages. Here they are surrounded by non-tribals, and that has increased over the years. For the last 30 years, more and more non-tribals have been coming there. And so they are, in their own lands, they are becoming like small islands. They are being forced into them. And so they used to be very afraid. And as soon as they saw any outsiders, what the Hos used to call Bhikkhus, when they saw any outsiders, they would run away or they locked in their home. Even when we went to a village, even though some of them were young tribals who came with us, they would hide because there was so much of fear.
Yeah.
But slowly, we took a group of youngsters, trained them, and they went from village to village talking to people, giving them courage. And the first thing we realized is the reason why they were so poor is because they had lost all their land. The Panya tribe, which is 50% of the Adivasis there are 4 tribes, Panyas, Batakurumbas, Katnaikans and Mulukurumbas. The Panyas had been in bonded labor. Every single family without exception had been living in bonded labor for 2 or 3 generations and had no land. And all the land had been taken away first by the forest department when the British times. It started from British times. They declared all the forest national property. Then the tea estates came and they took away a lot of the other land. And then we had Malayali settlers coming from Kerala, who then came and cheated the Adivasis of whatever little land they had. And finally, we had the Sri Lanka repatriates who come from Sri Lanka, who are now competing with the tribals for everything, because they are also from the working labor class. So we found that many Adivasis, nearly all the Adivasis, were working as laborers on land which was once their own. And when we looked at it, 11 villages were still in bonded labor. And in one village, we found that there were 22 families who were all in bonded labor, but they were working on their pata land. Government had given them pata. And we asked, what happened? Do you have your own land? They said, no, we don't have land. They said, no, government gave you land. We don't know anything about it. So then one of the team, one of our Adivasi friends asked, did government give you any paper at any time? And I said, some time ago they gave some paper. So what do you do with it? The landlord, who's a chetty, they call them chettis. The chetty took the paper from us and said, this might be important for you all afterwards, I'll keep it safely. Because if you all keep it, white ants will eat it, it will get spoiled. I think I'll keep it safely for you. We gave them all the papers. So they continue working on this land, which was their patta land. And they didn't know about it. So then we organized all of them. We got them to take back the land. And this happened in many villages, where through a lot of meetings, we had street plays, everything like that. People decided to take, people would organize the whole village. They formed village sangams, and the sangam would go and take back the land. And then, but they had no title. They already had physical possession. To prove their ownership of the land, we from our organization helped them to plant tea. So then they planted tea on the land. And so we thought this is all we will do, our single point agenda, organizing them to fight against exploitation and discrimination, and to fight the injustice and for them to get their land back. But while we were doing this work, we discovered that there were serious health problems here also. And in one village called Teppakat, which has become very famous because of the film Elephant Whisperers, there are two mahouts in that film are from this village, Teppakat. In 1 month, 3 women died of childbirth. That means 6 people died, 3 babies and 3 women. And then we discussed, by that time many sangams had been formed, so with all the sangam leaders we discussed what we should do, and everybody felt we should do something about health, but we didn't know what to do. We were activists, had no idea of what to do for healthcare. But then fortunately for us, 2 young doctors, Deva and Rupa, came from CMC Vellore, and they were going to do their postgraduate studies, and they had a 3-month gap. So they decided to spend that 3 months with us in a rural area and see what could happen, just as an exposure for them. But those 3 months, at the end of 3 months, they decided to stay, and they stayed for 10 years. They didn't go back till 10 years later. And they started a big community health program. But that community health program led to, the people then seeking healthcare. And because at that time our community health program was only focused on preventing antenatal deaths, preventing infant deaths. That was our focus, the antenatals and under 5. And then preventing preventable deaths like dysentery and diarrhea and all that. So we were not looking at any curative services. But the people started demanding curative services. So we tried with government hospital, other hospital, none of it was working. So then the people said, let's have our own hospital. And after a lot of discussion and debate, we decided to start our own hospital. But then we made that a separate organization called Ashwini. And Ashwini runs a 40-bedded hospital called the Gudlur Adivasi Hospital. But it is all run by Adivasis. All the nurses are Adivasis. And now we are very happy because just 2 days ago, we have a young tribal boy from our area who has got admission into CMC Vellore for medical studies. We hope he will come back, and the hospital, the doctors also will be Adivasi. Now the doctors are from outside. And that hospital and the success of the hospital was because it was not just a health institution, it was also a political institution. In the sense that we made it very clear this belonged to the Adivasis. And so if non-Adivasis, the Dikkus wanted to come to our hospital and be admitted, they had to get a letter from their village sangam recommending them for admission, which meant that a landlord had to go to one of his laborers and ask for a letter. And that changed the whole relationship between the non-tribals and the tribals. And we have never looked back. So because of the success of that, we had a big Mahasabha. I think it was in 1995. And at that Mahasabha, we had about 150 Sangam leaders from all the Sangams. 5 days we stayed together discussing what is the future. And they all said, just like the hospital, we need other own institutions. So now the hospital was Ashwini, then they said education. So then we started an education institution called Vidyodaya, which has a school and does a lot of other work. And then market to be able to sell their products and everything. We started the Just Change India producer company to sell their products and so on. But at the heart of everything is the Adivasi Monitor Sangam, which is a people's organization. It is not an NGO in that sense. It is the people themselves. Every village there is a Sangam. Representatives of that Sangam form an area Sangam, and representative of the area form the Taluk Sangam. So we are working as the Adivasi Monitor Sangam. So the hub is the Adivasi Monitor Sangam. All these are satellite organizations around that which provide specialized care through the AMS to the people. So all the staff are Adivasis by and large. There are few because of certain skills are from outside, but all the management is by the Adivasis. Or like I said, the skills used to come. We had a fantastic young person called Manoran who came from Irma management school, and then he told us, you are training nurses and expecting them to run a hospital. You are training community organizers and expecting them to run an organization. You are training teachers and expecting them to run a school. He says management is a different subject and we have to teach management. So he started taking young people and training them in management. And today all our finance directors, accountants, everybody are Adivasis. Everyone is Adivasis. They have learned tally, they will handle the auditor, they will send reports for FCRA to the Register of Societies. Everything is done by Adivasis. So we took over and as you know, money is a big source of power. So whoever controls money controls organizations. Yes. So that is also in the hands of Adivasis. And then we have also made the boards of all the organizations Adivasi. Originally boards were not, but over time every organization, the board is also made up of Adivasis selected through the AMS. The AMS will recommend names to become members of the board. So we are truly a community-led, community-owned and community-managed intervention. Completely governed. All of us see ourselves as support teams. We are just providing support for this to happen. We don't run it. We are not in charge. We provide support and we provide some level of leadership and everything, but essentially we are providing support.
सर अभी आपने बहुत सारे अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया, तो जो आपने बराबरू से स्टार्ट किया, वहाँ के कुछ अपने दोस्तों को याद करते हैं या तो उनके नाम कुछ याद हैं तो शायद सुनेंगे तो हो सकता है.
No, so there are many people, I don't remember all the names. There was a person called Tipu and his family who adopted me.
Okay.
I became part of the family, and there was actually a ritual where they said it's not good for you to live alone. You're not married. Nobody lives alone like this. You must become part of the family. And they did one, like a puja, one ritual was there. And then Tipu and his wife, they took a small stick, lighted stick, and they made a mark on my back. That mark is still there. And from that time I became a part of the family. So I was not just Segere, I became Segere Kayam. That's their Kili. The Kayam Kili, I became part of their Kili. And so I remember all of them. I remember Tipu, I remember his son Mutai. Then his youngest daughter, who was a small child, used to be with me all the time. Her name was Launge. And then there were young people, Sidega. Then Toma, who was also working with me, and then two of the girls, Lembo and Mandvi. Now all of them, I don't know if they are alive. So the closest friend was somebody called Buduram, who was very, very close to me, and I was with him all the time, and he is the one who taught me to plow and everything. Buduram, I heard from some other friends who had been to the village, they had passed away. Then there was, not from the village, but there's another friend, Thuram, and you remind me so much of Thuram. He looks just like you. Thuram also I heard passed away. And so I don't know who is, I'm sure Tipu would have passed away because he was much older than me. But hopefully some of the people who are my age, these names I am mentioning are there. And there is another person, there was Launge, and then there was Sidega. Sidega was a very young child also. So the children used to always be with me. So I remember Sidega also. And I'm hoping